Welcome to the Hunt for Harmony.
Welcome.
Create the marriage you want.
That's why we're here.
Yes, to help you.
See if we can help you create the marriage you want.
Yes, to see if we can help, to try and help.
I'm James Hunt.
I am Jaqua, and we are not
Counselors, pastors, ministers, therapists. We consider ourselves marriage coaches.
Yes.
We've been married 27 years, and we just like to share. Some of the things that have caused us some stumbles and throughout our marriage, and knowing that we can get through these things, we know you can get through those things.
Mm-hmm.
So we hope that what we share can definitely help you.
Yes. Last week we talked about pornography in marriage. And the question was, should I watch porn with my spouse? So I encourage you to go back and watch it.
But the short answer was no.
It was a very interesting discussion.
It was.
Very interesting discussion.
But I agree. I think everybody should go back and watch that because it was pretty good, actually.
Yeah. So go back, watch it. I'll put a link in here.
And give us your thoughts and comments on it, whether you agree or disagree. Mm-hmm. We would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Sure would. And now tonight we'll be talking about who you love and who decides who you love. So in 3 stages of your life: before marriage, during your marriage, and after marriage. If there is an after marriage, hopefully you wouldn't have an after marriage. I guess it could be after marriage through death.
Things happen, but death is definitely
Death is
one.
definitely one.
Yeah.
Separation, divorce, that leads to divorce. So any of those things that could put you in a post-marital state. So who decides who you're going to love? And let me say before we start, there is no right or wrong.
Right.
There is no right or wrong. We're going to touch on a few who's based on, of course, our experience and what people have done and things like that. But there is no right or wrong. I say there is no right or wrong. There kind of is a right.
Yeah,
it kind of is. Right.
It is.
But
kind of is.
At the end of it all, it's your decision. Right? It's your decision. So, to start off, before marriage, when you are, were you ready to say something else?
No, I was just ready to say,
when you're dating and you're looking for a spouse, who decides who you're going to give your love to in marriage? Who makes that decision for you? I know a lot of people say God.
Yeah.
A lot of people say God chose their spouse. And I don't quite believe that. Actually, I could take quite out.
Right.
I don't believe that.
I don't believe that either.
Because God is a free will God. He gives us choice. He doesn't even make us be Christians. You don't have to be a Christian.
It's all your decision.
Choice. Yeah. You don't have to live in this lifestyle. It's your choice. So I don't think He chooses your spouse. I think He may put people in your path. But
for you to learn some things from, people to observe. And I think sometimes we find ourselves gravitating to those people in an affectionate way, and we figure, hey, God brought them into my life as my spouse, but that's really not what He was doing. He just wanted you to see some things and to learn some things, maybe.
Right, maybe. So you really have to, analyze that, examine a little bit. But personally, I don't believe that God chooses your spouse. So, for me, scratch.
Yeah, I agree with that. The other one is parents. Sometimes people say my parents chose this person for me.
Right.
And in some cultures, that's definitely the case.
Right.
They have prearranged marriages. So when you turn 15, you're marrying this person.
Right.
And that's a given. There's nothing you can do to change it.
Or it could just be an not a forced marriage. It could just be a setup. I've known of couples whose parents, like, your friend's child or whatever, and you guys meet. Now, they were, playing matchmaker, but you didn't necessarily know that. And it wasn't a forced marriage, but they ended up marrying, and they met by way of their parents.
Right.
So it could be your parents who who introduce you. But again, they don't necessarily make the choice for you.
Right.
They may bring this person to you or point a person out to you, but they don't necessarily make that decision. And if they do, that's not necessarily a good thing.
And if you look at the other side of that coin, some parents will try and prevent you from loving somebody that you actually love and have feelings for,
right?
Because they don't like, their parents or where they grew up or how they act. But it's not your parents' decision. In this culture, it's not your parents' decision.
Right.
Okay, that it's all you.
It's all you.
Okay?
It's all you.
Because at the end of it all,
you have to be
whether
in
it's
there.
bad or good, you got to deal with the consequences.
Yes, you are in there. You are in there. And then circumstances. Sometimes it's your circumstances that dictate who you're going to marry who you're going to love. The first one that pops into my mind is pregnancy, an unplanned pregnancy. A lot of people get married because they were pregnant. Sometimes it ends up going well. Sometimes it does not. Or it could be a situation where you feel like it's your last choice. You've run out of any other options and you want to be married so badly that you just take the next thing coming. So it could be that as well. And those are your circumstances. Obviously, scratch. Right. That should not dictate who you're going to marry and who you're going to love. An unplanned pregnancy, I always say an unplanned pregnancy is one mistake. Don't make two
by getting married because you're pregnant.
Because you're pregnant. That is not a reason to get
That's a recipe for a disaster.
Yeah. So finally, it comes down to you. Before you are married and you're looking for a spouse, ultimately, you are the person who has to decide if this person is for you or not.
Right.
And you will have those outside pressures, but you have got to know what it is that you want in your marriage and what you want in your spouse. So it really is up to you. That's why I said that it kind of is a right answer. Because although some people marry a person because they think God has brought them for that purpose, or because their parents want them to marry that person, or because they're in a situation where they feel like, we got to get married. Ultimately, the decision really should be yours.
Well, during marriage, that's an easy one.
That's an easy one.
It's you.
It's you. That's it.
Period.
You cannot allow anything or anyone to dictate how you love your spouse.
Right.
And that's a no-brainer. That one's simple.
So we don't have to even get into that.
No.
Because it's one thing, and that's you.
And that's you. Period. It's a choice. And you have to make that choice every day.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But let's say you got married, and it's like you said, a spousal death or separation and divorce. Who determines when you decide, okay, I'm ready to love again. I want
romantically.
Yeah, I want someone in my life to spend the rest of my life with, to share the things that I have and so forth. Who makes that decision?
And I think this is when it gets sketchy, because you have some people who say, look, I'm an adult. I can love whoever I want to love.
Right.
And I completely disagree with that. If you have children.
I say if you have young children.
Yes, if you have young children.
If you have young children.
A qualifier. If you have young children.
They have an influence.
They have to have an influence.
They have to. You get a young child saying, Mommy, I don't like, or Daddy, I don't like so-and-so. You really have to evaluate that, because there is a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And kids are pure, and they can see some things, that we can't. They know when people care about them. They know if people are treating them well. How do they act around this person? Do they seem afraid, or do they clam up? Or how is it that they interact with one another? And if your child is telling you they don't like, that's something you should definitely consider.
Yeah, you have to consider it. Yeah. And I know, again, adults, they say, well, I'm an adult. I want companionship. It's not fair. But I would turn that around and say it's not fair, the situation that you put them in. I'm sure they want their parent as well.
Right.
They want their mom or they want their dad. So, yeah, to me, children should have a say. They have to have a say.
Young children.
Young children, yeah. And I have to put that in there because...
Yeah, young children.
Because that's important. Young children. We're talking about a child who is aware of and able to share an opinion about a person. If they like being around a person. We're not talking about a baby. I mean, a baby wouldn't know necessarily. But young, toddler. I would say, 2, 3, 4. Some 2-year-olds can communicate very well with whom they are connected or engaged or like or don't like. And so you need to pay attention to that. When you get into the older ages, to me, you're ready to be at a breaking point.
No, not ready to be. You have to be at a breaking point.
No.
Because the Bible...
You didn't even let me finish.
Okay, I'll let her finish, then I'll say that.
You're ready to be at a breaking point. Mm-hmm. Because if your child is in high school and you're thinking, and you consider, you also need to consider that in the very near future, that child will be leaving and establishing his or her own life.
I retract my comment.
Thank you very much. So there is coming a breaking point, a natural break, where, no, you don't give up all parental rights, but in many ways, you're no longer that person who is the sole decision maker. And hopefully by the time they're in high school, you're not the sole decision maker anyway, but you're no longer the person that's determining their life path. They are. So they will be in a position to remove themselves. So to me, that frees you up to make some decisions for yourself. So to me, I'm talking about high school age because you're anticipating a natural break.
Well, let's look at the college and the adult independent child.
They have very, very, very little say to me.
They might live with you and so forth till they get themselves right, get themselves on their feet.
And all of that is great.
But they have no say-so in who you choose to be with.
No, not to me.
Unless they can prove to you that he was abusive, that
she
was abusive,
have some outstanding flaw.
They're thieves and just untrustworthy. If they can show that to you and give you reasons, you have to consider that.
Definitely.
Because they're old enough to know, when things are not good. But if it's just because I don't like him, or
she trying to be my mom.
Yeah, that's in one ear and out the other.
No.
That is your decision.
Right, because more often than not, in my experience, I mean, I haven't had first-hand experience, obviously, but more often than not, an adult child whose biological parent, marries, it's not even necessarily a parent-child relationship. I mean, in title, it is a stepmother, a stepchild, but you're not necessarily establishing a parent-child relationship unless that is a desired position.
Right.
Unless that's something that the child, the adult child, has said, I've always wanted a mom, or I've always wanted a dad to do this or that. That's different. The natural progression of that relationship will be more as friends because you're an adult.
But if you run into a situation where, that's not I don't want another man in my house.
In my mom's
he's
life.
not my dad or she's not my dad.
Right. Mind your business.
You can leave. That's what you can do because this is my house.
Right.
And I'm gonna love who I want to
love.
I'm going to entertain whoever I want to entertain in my house.
Right.
You know, because you run into that where parents have divorced and, you know, the kids take sides, you know, the adult kids take sides and they would prefer their dad be there and they try and make you feel guilty that their dad is not there or their mom is not there. You can't fall for the okie doke, okay? You can't let that type of pressure, you know, determine, you know, your decision, okay?
Now the other person might be your ex.
Right.
Your ex may decide with whom you're going to be, who you're going to love. And to an extent, I believe that an ex should have, that there should be at least a conversation. Because if you have younger children who are at home, because if my child, our child, is going to be around this person, then
there's a tie.
Yeah. And so you have to have some type of relationship. I haven't seen it very often. I've seen it some where a new spouse has a relationship with the ex and they are successful at co-parenting. But I've seen the other side of that as well, where the new spouse can't stand the ex-spouse and vice versa, and that wreaks havoc on a kid because they're the ones who are put in the position to choose. And even if you don't make them choose, they feel like they have to choose. So I do believe that an ex should, at least, that there should be a meeting, a conversation as to how this is going to play out. Because in some instances you're talking about 3 parents. In some instances you're talking about 4.
Right.
So there has to be a game plan. There has to be
teamwork
and some guidelines to follow so that every person feels respected in that situation. So in a situation such as that with younger children, I feel like the ex definitely has, I won't say a say necessarily, but there definitely needs to be a conversation, a discussion about the type of people that will be around your children. And this happens a lot when a spouse dies and then the spouse marries the best friend of one of the remaining. That always seems odd to me.
I mean, that's a different situation, but I can see.
Oh, I can see it.
Because you all are close. It was your spouse's best friend. And so, you know, for all intent and purposes, it's your best friend too, because they're always around. You know one another
getting to know them and so
very
forth.
well. And you probably feel like it's your duty to take care of, you know, the spouse who has survived.
I guess. That just seems kind of weird to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing. It's because people will say, well, they probably liked one another
beforehand.
What? You don't know that.
You know? No. You don't. It just seems weird, but I mean, it's understandable. Like you said, if this is your best friend, likely couples become best friends on both sides.
Right.
And so even if you're not best friends, even if both spouses are not best friends, you're probably spending a lot of time together. So you're getting to know this person and, you know, boom, you end up getting married.
That's a good thing there that I want to ask everybody out there listening. If you've been in that situation, if you have married your spouse's best friend or, you know,
or relative, like a cousin or something,
send us a message to just let us know what the situation was.
Yeah, because I'm saying to me it would be weird, but I completely understand in certain circumstances. But that could be a circumstance that brings you to a second spouse. Right. So, and then finally, you got to make some decisions. You got to make some choices. If your children are young, then they have to be able to have a voice. If you have a former spouse, then I believe they have to be able to be a part of the conversation. If you have adult children, on the other hand, Same to me. Same thing.
Listen.
Hear Absolutely. Them out. Listen.
Hear them out.
Listen.
But you know if it doesn't make sense or not.
Right. Yeah. You have to be able to discern if they are being selfish or if they're truly speaking out of concern for you.
And after gathering all that information,
you make the final decision. You have to decide. Right, so that's it.
That's all I got.
I have no more.
We thank everybody for watching, and we hope that you can get something from this episode of The Hunt for Harmony. Yes. We ask that you will subscribe and like.
Please do. And share.
And visit our website
at www.thehuntforharmony.com.
All right. We hope to hear from some of you, and you can message us with any questions, comments, or concerns.
And suggestions.
All right. So we'll see you next week at 7:30 here on The Hunt for Harmony. You guys have a good night.
See ya later.
Take care.